Welcome to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me is NFL staff writer Gilbert Manzano, for who does it for Sports Illustrated. Gilbert, you were at the game. Everybody got to hear my, reaction post game on the live. If you want to go and get my thoughts, go ahead and check it out. But Gilbert, what were your takeaways from this? It was a really good game in the first half, and then the 49ers kind of separated themselves and they proved why they're the best team in football.
Yeah, before I give you my thoughts, I just thought about an engagement question of the
Oh, there
week
we
on
go.
the spot. I know we usually do that for the preview episode, but do you believe in moral victories? Moral victory Monday. People hate it. Some people like it, especially when you're kind of like, you know, unsure about how the season's going to play out and they're actually surprising and they're doing well against a team like the 49ers. Maybe you'll take a moral victory, but let me know in the comments about that. But Victor, I'll kind of break it down in two ways. The way the Rams played was kind of what we expected. Control the clock, get more plays, get more first down, just keep the explosive 49ers offense on the sideline, which is hard to do when you're facing a very explosive 49ers defense. But they got that. And then when you play this kind of ball control style, when you don't have the same type of firepower, you need a couple of lucky breaks. They got that. Brock Purdy was missing some throws down the field,
Yeah.
but the interesting part about it, like when I think the 49ers were expecting that kind of play style because they don't have an option. They don't have Cooper Cup. They don't really have a guy to go down the field. Yeah, Tutu was explosive, but it's not that easy just to kind of go down the field and make plays happen against this defense. But you find on the back, Fred Warner and Drake Greenlaw in the middle, and then obviously we all know about the defensive line. But the thing I found out about the 49ers defense when I went to the locker room, I was there at SoFi Stadium. Ufanga told me like, yeah, we couldn't figure them out for a bit. Like they were playing this quick game, but it was just different. And that's the unique thing about having a great coach like Sean McVay and also Kyle Shanahan on the other side. These guys know each other so well, but the head games increase, the level is different, and you're trying to figure each other. And Eric Armstead, Ufanga told me like we couldn't get a beat on them. It took us a while, and then eventually, with everything that we all expected was going to happen, occurred in the second half. I'll get into why the avalanche. It wasn't really an avalanche, but kind of a slide occurred in the second half. But that was kind of my takeaway. The game plan worked for a bit, but when you play this ball control, you got to be perfect. You got to have lucky breaks. And for about maybe 2 quarters and a half, they got those breaks and they kind of fell apart.
Yeah, and I thought for me the big thing was Kyle Shanahan going for fourth down on that last play. I thought they were going to kick the field goal there, and hey, the Rams were going to be up at the half, 17-14. That wasn't the case. He goes with the QB sneak there with Brock Purdy, and they tie the game up. And I thought the other thing too that was big, and I talked about it, was Joe Noboom going down with the shoulder injury there. And once Tremaine Ankrum came in, I thought that was a big. But props to the 49ers. They took advantage of, they knew where to take advantage of some of the holes that the Rams have. The other thing is they don't have a lot of depth on this team, and so you needed a perfect game from the Rams and to be able to stay with the 49ers. And then they scored, what was it, 17 unanswered points,
Yeah.
and that was the ball game. I thought, like, I love the effort from the Rams, but you could see the difference in talent, Gilbert, and you can see why the 49ers are going to be, one of the teams that everybody expects to be in the Super Bowl this season.
Yeah, you brought up the two points I wanted to make for why it kind of got away. That play at the end of the first half was big. It changed momentum. It made the 49ers feel good about what they're doing in the first half because it was all Rams. Like we'll keep it real in the first half. They were doing well. Like I mentioned, they controlled the pace. They were playing their type of football the way they wanted to do it. And then credit to Kyle Shanahan. That was a gutsy play to have Brock Purdy throw it. And credit to Brock Purdy once he saw there was something there, boom, quick, get it out and keep 1 second on the clock. And then and also he ran it too at the end of at the end of the half, and he got the touchdown, so it worked out. But they could have easily, if Brock Purdy held the ball too long, they could have easily been no points in that position. It would have been big for the Rams, like their psyche and thinking, okay, we got this. It's 17-10 and then end up, or it was 17-13 it was, or I forget. I'm already blanking, but it was tied 17-17. There you go, 17-10. So that really changed the momentum. And then the other point you brought was Tremaine Ankrum, because once he went out, or when he went in, because Joe Noteboom went out, the pressure started picking up. They started figuring out the quick game. And who knows, maybe if Joe Noteboom was still in there, maybe the 49ers would eventually figure it out and adjusted and got into Matthew Stafford. But beating the 49ers locker room, they mentioned that Fred Warner sack on third down was big. Like, it felt like, okay, finally, we're in a rhythm. We finally got to this Rams offense, because they kept relying on Brock Purdy to get points, to get some field goals. And I think they said once it was 20-17, they got that field goal from Jake Moody in the third quarter. They felt like, okay, now we're getting a rhythm. Maybe we can start attacking more because they have the lead. And when you play with a lead, you can rush a little more. So after Wagner got that sack, it got more pressure. But credit to the offensive line and Matthew Stafford for a bit, because that was only one sack. And like I was looking at the other game, Victor, from last year, the first game. Stafford got sacked 7 times and he got
Yep.
hit 11 times. So it's a big difference. But then when you're falling behind against this team, you can't play this ball control style where you can't average 5 yards per play, throwing the ball. And it hurt when Stafford threw those two interceptions. They had opportunities, Victor, to rally from 20-17, or when they got down to 10, and they couldn't do it. And also credit to the defense for the Rams for somewhat containing this avalanche that always seems to come. And the Steelers found that out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to keep it the way they did, they had a good game plan. You really, that was a good thing to see from McVay, and just the way he schemed this up was also really good to see. I thought the reason I brought up Joe Noteboom and Tremaine Ankrum was because I saw a couple of plays where he looked at Coleman Shelton and he was like, "Where do I go here for the blitz?" Because they blitz on that on that Warner blitz. They went right through that hole where Tremaine Ankrum should have been. Instead, he fell for the for the he tried to look to the right, and then right through the gap, he just shot right through the gap and got Stafford. And so that was big. And then you continue to see throughout the second half that he kept having to ask him for, hey, where do I go, if and that sucks because when you don't take first team reps, that type of stuff you don't practice, Gilbert. And I thought that was a huge thing. I'm not making excuses for why the
Yeah.
Rams. I'm just letting you know that that was something that I saw.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, he doesn't have the first team reps. He goes in there in the third quarter. You're facing Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, and those guys. So it's not easy, but it also kind of makes you think like, okay, the Rams really made the right call. That once Noteboom lost the left tackle job, like they weren't afraid to tinker with positions, and they put Noteboom to that guard spot. So I'm not trying to knock Ankrum, but you could tell like they're on different levels there. But then again, like, do we really know about this Rams offensive line? Because they were just playing quick game. They were getting the ball out quick. And even the guys who are the best in the world, that Nick Bosa, can't get there that fast. But if you give them like another, extra point 4 of a second, they will get there. So
Yeah.
that also counts as rhythm and timing, right? So you got to be on the same page. You got to kind of know the game plan. So I'll give the Rams offensive line credit there. Uh, but when you're playing this type of style and you're averaging, 5 yards per passing attempt, and it was working with Puka. We'll get to Puka in a bit, and Tutu. But when you're not moving the ball down the field and you're falling behind, and then you're throwing interceptions at the same time, like the perfect game plan you're about to get, because Brock Purdy, man, if Brock Purdy got those passes in the first half to Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel, this game would have been over before halftime. So uh, you got the breaks, you dictated the tempo, but then when you fell behind, there was no counter adjustment there, and it's hard to do that when you don't have Cooper Cup. That's when you really missed them.
Yeah, and you don't want your quarterback, dropping back 55 times. And then you look at the stat line here. Yeah, he goes 34 of 55, and he has another 300-yard game, his second in a row. And as you talked about, then you have Kyron Williams, and we'll get to Cam Akers right after
Yeah.
this. But Kyron Williams having only 14 carries, you need to run the ball. And talking about Cam Akers, it was kind of weird when you saw Royce Freeman get elevated. I was like, what's going on there? Next thing you know, Cam Akers is inactive, and then we're back to where we were at the end of last season, Gilbert. So, what was your reaction to this whole ordeal with Cam Akers again?
Yeah, and by the way, good point on the Russian attack because that's what they had a week ago, right?
Yes.
Against the Seahawks. So they had that same game plan, but without the same amount of running play. So maybe that would have helped them and prevented some of those interceptions. But it's hard when you're missing a Cam Akers, and I get that Kyron Williams, maybe beat out Cam Akers in practice. I buy that for sure. But you can't be that thin and only have one guy. And then I don't even think Freeman even played it in the game, or did he? Like,
No, it was um what was it? Kyron Williams took the majority of the snaps, and then
yeah.
I think Ronnie Rivers probably had either 4 plays or 4 carries.
Yeah, I think it was 4 plays. I'm checking the stat sheet. They didn't get a carry. It was
Yeah.
Skowronek, Stafford,
Yep.
two and I think even Puka had a couple. So, yeah, that's not an ideal game plan. Like, yeah, you get and if you have the one guy, he's a second year guy who barely played a year ago. Feed him more. Like he could handle the workload. And Kyrie Williams was great. Like there was that wild sequence where the Stafford threw him the ball and he got up really quick and he made a
Yeah.
couple more yards out of it. So, Kyrie Williams is impressive, but getting a Cam Akers, after a while, enough is enough. This partnership,
Yes.
this marriage, whatever you want to call it, it's time to move on. What the heck happened a year ago? I don't know how they made it back from that, and they made it work. And credit to Cam Akers. After a while, he stopped, complaining about the coaching philosophy or not getting enough carries, and he played hard. He really stood out as a rookie a few years ago, and he went back to that for the last month of the season, a lost season, but still, he made it work, and he played himself back onto the good side of Sean McVay and back onto the roster, and he was supposed to be I saw Cam Akers in fantasy football going in the third round, fourth round. Like that tells you how much he really shot up from that good finish a year ago. But after a while, when there's a lot of friction in philosophy and coaching, and I get Cam Akers a surprise, but he was surprised a year ago too. Like when we talked to him in the locker room, he's like, "I have no idea what's going on. I practiced my butt off. I don't know what's going on here. It was just two different stories, and you don't know who to believe." And even to this day, I'm not even really sure what happened last year when he was supposed to get traded and he didn't get traded, and I don't even know what the real cause is besides coaching differences. So
Yeah.
that to me sounds like the same thing. There's definitely more to it. There's something going on. I don't want to speculate, but hopefully it's not Cam Akers seeing Kyron Williams getting more carries a week ago and he got annoyed by it. Hopefully that's not it.
That's what I've heard. I heard the broadcast. I was listening to the broadcast. They said that he wasn't buying in, and then with the young guys that they have, they don't want that on this team. Now, the other thing was I read Jordan Rodriguez' story today, and she was talking about how once the running back coach left to Arizona State, they brought him back, and then things were cool. And I guess he just reverted back to whatever happened this week. It sounds like it either happened Saturday or it must have happened during practice this week. The thing I wanted to ask you, Gilbert, because I saw this on one of the Rams on Twitter, one of the Rams blogs. What do you think of them trying to trade for Jonathan Taylor? Should they? I mean, is are you? I mean, is this even a good idea just with where you are at when you're thinking that this is a gap season?
It's tough, and it's a good question, but let me give you a straight up answer. If that's the case where Cam Akers being so annoyed after a victory, a big win, then just cut ties. You're not going
Yes.
to get the value that you want because you have no leverage. Everybody knows you're trying to get rid of him like a year ago. So
Yeah.
just release him. He's already about to be, or waive him. He's about to be a free agent this year.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, that's on Cam Akers. You're about to be a free agent, and you got to ball out to get the next contract. And it's not easy for running backs, but again, I don't know if that's the case, but if it is, the Rams got to do what they got to do. It's not going to work. Now on the Jonathan Taylor, speculation, I guess it's always good to see what's out there. They tried for Christian McCaffrey a year ago, so obviously the Rams, they're not really in this idea where like, well, it's a running back, we shouldn't like give up a bunch. If it's the right running back, you go ahead and you do it. But I don't see Taylor on the class of Christian McCaffrey. And look at the blueprint a year ago. This is the way I'll say it. When the 49ers did not give up a first round pick for Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor should not get a first round pick either. So I don't care what you're saying, Jim Irsay, you're not getting that. So if you feel like this is a good team to maybe make a run and maybe build for the future, and you want to pay this guy, because that's the thing, right? It's the catch. You got to pay him too. So when Jonathan Taylor is healthy, maybe Cooper Cup is healthy, and maybe after that you steal a game in Cincinnati or you beat the Eagles. Again, I keep saying that you got to win one of those games. You're down 0-1 from this 3 game gauntlet that's coming up. So if you feel like you're in a good place after those 4 games, for the IR for Taylor and also Cooper Cup, I say get aggressive and you do it because again, like you've mentioned this all the time, Victor. LA is all about stars, and if this team becomes like a pesky wild card contender, and you got Cooper Cup, Jonathan Taylor, Puka Nacua, revamp offensive line with a healthy Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, go ahead and do it, but not for a first round pick. I'll cap it there. Maybe a second round pick. I'll see. I'm not the GM. I don't know why I'm saying I'll see, but we'll see about them. But don't do it for a first round pick. You're finally going to get a first round pick in
No.
2024 in a loaded class. Don't do that.
Yeah, you don't. You're not gonna do it for a first round pick. I was just saying like maybe a second round pick or
Yeah.
something like that. We'll see. But let's get to the star of this game, the guy who's breaking all the records. Puka Nacua, he breaks a bunch of records here. Like there's so many to mention here. He's got 15 catches. Are the his 15 catches were the most in a game in NFL history. He has 25 receptions through 2 games, are the most in a player's first 2 games in NFL history. Where do you want to start with what you've seen from Puka Nacua?
Man, I'll start with this one before I say what really stands out to me. And I already said it a week ago, but I saw a stat that like he already has a record for 3 games because it was 23 catches from Anquan Bolden, and he's already at 25. That is just wild to me. And Anquan Bolden was really really good. I think he won Offensive Rookie of the Year that season with the Cardinals. So whoever had Puka for Offensive Rookie of the Year and you made a bet, uh, you're looking good. You're probably gonna enjoy that. Maybe use it as a down payment for a new house because that's big money right there if you got that right. And maybe we should have done it because we saw it in training camp. This guy's a star. I'll say this: I'm surprised how good he's playing. I could even say how great he's playing. That's how great it's been. Uh, like you mentioned the Robert Woods comparison. I could see him kind of being like a fringe second option. Like I definitely saw number 3. Like he's gonna be cracking the starting lineup. I saw that, but to the point where he's playing the Cooper Cup role and he's number 1. And now when Cooper Cup comes back, he might be like one B or something like that. I mean, that's kind of a high bar because Cooper Cup is really good. But when you think about the best of the best number 2s in the league, like Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, Puka, it's not that far behind, and it's only been 2 games, so I don't
I
know if I'm
know.
overreacting, but it's fun to watch him and then doing so much, especially a very good 49ers defense. And I know it's kind of that factor where it's the first time you're seeing it, so you don't know what to expect. So maybe the 49ers were kind of having that as well. But to give them, this is a stat 20 freaking targets. How do you get 20 targets as a 5th round rookie from a guy like Stafford, who's such a competitive guy who has a high standard? You really did something right to gain that trust, and also for Sean McVay to scheme up a bunch of plans for you to get open as well. So Puka's been doing it, and Victor, I'll give you a quick story. I talked to Tyler Noah, here you go, Ufanga,
Yeah.
in the locker room, and I just told him, man, like you were in the secondary. What did you think about Puka Nuka? Nakua. There you go, Puka Nakua. I'm getting Talanoa Ufanga Puka Nakua.
Yeah.
And the first thing he told me is that it's just cool to see a guy who's Polynesian making
Yes.
plays in the NFL. There's a good group of them in the NFL, and he's like, but man, like he's doing it against us, so that was a tough. He was like conflicted because it was a rival doing all those plays, but he's like he knew the stat. He's like, man, like this guy broke the record for most catches in 2 games. Like, congrats to him. And I'm just very blessed to see another Polynesian and play against him. And he mentioned that he played with his brother, right, with the 49ers. I think Kai Nakua played for the 49ers for briefly from 20 to 2021. So Ufanga played with him. So to see the younger brother for him was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just the other thing that I really enjoyed about watching this game was how they moved him around. Like they didn't just keep him on one side. They used them on jet sweeps. They moved them around. You got to see him on the right side, on the left side. And that's the great thing. I know we were talking about with Alonzo, who's a 49ers fan, and he was asking why he was still in the game towards the end of the game there and when he was hurting. And I look, when you're in your second game as a pro, you're gonna stay in there. You're gonna fight through injuries. You're not one of those guys where you're like a Devonte Adams or one of those guys where you can, and even as a competitor, you don't want to come out. Maybe Sean McVay should have taken him out towards the end of the game when you were already down by 10, 14 points. But talking about Sean McVay, and before, I wanted to ask you, do you know if he knew the what the spread was, Gilbert?
I don't know, but I was actually like, heading to the locker room because the game was over, so I missed the sequence. But yeah, they got that field goal randomly, and I guess the game was over. My guess is like he just wants to give Maher an extra swing at it to get a rhythm, and I don't think he cared about the spread there. But yeah, so it would have been what like the 49ers would have won by 10, right? And the
Yes.
49ers betters would have got that. So maybe the Rams didn't want to give 49ers supporters that type of luxury.
Yeah, so it depends on where you bet it, but the line was between 7 and 7.5. So you either got to push,
Yeah.
or you it was a back cover. So, but I just thought it was hilarious. I know a lot of people made a lot of comments out of it, and I don't, he doesn't care. I thought, you want to feel good about yourself. You want to be able to score points, and it looks better on the scoreboard too. It's good for morale. I know you asked, hey, was this a moral victory? And I think that's where you got to go. But before we go, Gilbert, let's get our 12 pack player of the game. Who are you going with for this game?
I forgot who I gave it to the week ago. Was it the offensive line? Is that what I said?
I think
Because
so.
I don't want to give it a Puka every single week. So if I didn't give it last week to him, I'm gonna do it this week. I don't care. He
Yeah, you
deserves
go
it.
ahead. He deserves it, man.
And and like you mentioned, man, this guy's playing banged up. And
Actually, I just remembered. I gave half my 24 pack to Tutu and half to Puka. So you didn't give it to him. I
okay,
did.
so
I did. I get. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll give it to Puka and also give it to Tutu. Man, to put 2 games in a row like that, where you're becoming a reliable playmaker. That's what we wanted to see the last 2 years. So Tutu is doing something right. I don't know what's going on with Van Jefferson. I think you mentioned in the live show. Good
Yeah,
takeaways by you. Check that out for more. And same thing, you have some good takeaways on Darion Kendrick. I'll just say this: I want to see more Trey Tomlinson, and it's about time because he had 0 defensive snaps against the 49ers. I get it. You want to ease them into it, but we'll see what happens with that. But the bright side is Puka Nacua, and I get it. Like you don't, for a lot of people, you don't believe in more victories, but like you got a bona fide star there. I feel like breaking so many records. Stafford looks healthy. Again, like when you play, like they're gonna play the Bengals, and that's a high powered offense on the road, which they seem like they're waking up in that Baltimore game in the second half, but they couldn't stop the run to get close there. But this ball control style might not work. You need more firepower, but when you have Puka, like it gives you a chance to play this style. In the NFL, you never know. You might get those breaks, and they almost did this week. But to have that, it really brings a lot of confidence to everybody else. Like, hey, we're missing Cooper Cup, but for a second, you might forget because Puka's been balling out. So for that, take this tall can of Modelo, get the 3 pack from your local grocery store, and then give one to Tutu. And then you know what? Maybe one to Sean McVay for having such a good game plan.
I like that. That was a good call by you. And for me, I'm gonna give it to Coleman Shelton. I really enjoyed watching the offensive line work. I know they're not having to stay on their blocks a lot, but when they ran the ball, he was mauling guys over, and and just seeing him, interacting with Tremaine Akram, trying to get him in the right spot, I thought showed a lot of leadership. And so for that, and I know, not a lot of people expected this offensive line to be very good. We still don't, but they're playing better than we all thought. And I think being the guy at the center of this, being the center, being the one that's in charge of the calls, I think he did a good job. Yeah, you only allowed 2 sacks, but he's done a great job of calling out the plays for the offensive line. So for me, it's going to be Coleman Shelton.
Yeah, I like that. Coleman Shelton has been playing great. A year ago, he was a utility guy who really, I want to say saved because it was such a lost season for the offensive line, but so dependable to fill so many spots a year ago. he earned this starting role as a center. He proved himself a year ago, and now he's a legit starter in the league. And yeah, and he's going from guard to center, and to be controlling so much and earn that trust from Stafford, I think goes a long way. But like you mentioned, Victor, run the freaking ball a little more, and hopefully they
Yes.
do it against the Bengals.
Yeah, and then we'll get to that preview. I wanted to talk about Joe Burrow, but I'll leave it for
Yeah,
the preview when that we got coming up on Wednesday night or Tuesday or Thursday morning, depending on when we record. What do you have that you're working on? Make sure you're following Gilbert at G Manzano 24 on X, on Instagram, on all your socials. What do you got working? What do you got coming out on
yeah.
SI?
You check out SI right now. Maybe under my profile, my bio there, Gilberto Manzano. You'll see all my stories from week 2. I did a breakdown of the entertaining Seahawks Lions game where, okay, Geno Smith and Jared Goff, they're not going anywhere. So that was kind of a fun ride to do. I had my takeaways for the Sunday Night Football game, Dolphins and the Patriots, and that was kind of a similar, format that the 49ers and the Rams had, because divisional rivals, they play each other close, and even a high-powered offense, the Dolphins struggled in that one. But check out that if you want more of a full NFL landscape. I got my 5 things that we learned also up there, and I have some winners and losers uh, column coming up Tuesday morning, and maybe I'll just say it right now. Puka Nacua, definitely a big time winner. So
Yeah.
I'll give him some love in that column there. So and even if you want 49ers story, but check out my Q&A with the 49ers defensive players for what Ufanga fully had to say about another Polynesian player in the league, and Puka Nacua. But yeah, it's always busy. Check out the bio there, and check out all our content on the Compas on the Beat YouTube channel. We go lives on Monday, I guess evening, or depending when you are, before Monday Night Football. We have the 4 box show with you, me, Dan, and Diego and Fernando on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, depending on when we record. I like that response there, Victor, you had earlier. Rapid fire also either Tuesdays or Wednesdays. We'll figure it out. But
Yeah.
check out the channel. We have so much going on, and I am losing my breath with all these promotions on the Combos on the Beat Network.
Hey, we gotta let everybody know where they can find us. So you got us covered with that. We've given you all we have in terms of this matchup between the Rams and the 49ers. You know, whether you agree that it's a moral victory or you're not a guy, let us know. Let us know in the comments. Like I said, send in your comments. We're seeing your comments. Thank you. I appreciate, and I'll say this because a lot of people kind of shouted me out on the comments. So I just appreciate you guys listening. Without you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. So please continue to give us your comments, and we'll get them on the show, especially for the preview. But with that, Gilbert, go ahead and close us out.
Yeah, before we close out, I'll say one nice thing about you, Victor, and don't expect it every single week. But you do have a very personable, inviting, conversational approach. Like you're at the bar. I saw that comment, like, "Hey, I feel like we're at the bar, and I wanted to talk to somebody about the Rams game." And if you met Victor, aka the producer, Victor Corona, and at the bar, that's exactly how he'll talk to you. Keep it real, give you some facts, and he'll break it down. So always check out the live show. I'll try to make it one of these weeks, but it's been busy so far on Sundays. But I kind of like this approach. You break it down. Like you might need like a bar setting eventually. Maybe
I
have
know,
people
right? I know. I'm
go
not. Yeah,
live, like in person live, like the
yeah,
old days
yeah.
at a bar. People come ask you questions, you talk. And then Mondays I'll try to give you my thoughts. So you get a little bit of everything there, but you get immediate reactions from Victor. I really like that. I love seeing the comments. Keep flooding the comments for every House of Horns episode. Like we always say, be a compa, tell a compa. Spread the word about House of Horns. The Rams are doing well. It's a moral victory. Again, let me know. Shut up about that because you don't like them. That's okay too. But on that note, ya nos vamos. Pues vámonos.